Amber, David, my original plan today was to make it to Erie, Kentucky, an unincorporated town, then make my way to Heinzman in Knott County, I believe, but I just never made it that far. Just so much destruction along the roadway. I would stop every quarter of a mile, talk to another family, a family who's lost everything, some whose entire homes were washed away, others who lost neighbors in this flooding, and again, others who lost family members. Speaking to a emergency professional down here, he says in all of his years, he's never seen flash flooding this bad. Around every turn of Highway 476 are homes that have been destroyed by floodwater.
All the way to the ceiling.
Or the foundation where homes used to be.
And he told them they better get the National Guard out.
Judy Hudson was rescued by helicopter from her home last Thursday.
The helicopter started flying over and we was waving stuff out the windows and they come and got us.
The water was nearly waist deep on the second floor of Hudson's home. And Troublesome Creek is more than 30 yards from their front door.
He dropped a basket down to the door and we got in the basket and they took us up in the basket.
Hudson and her husband survived, but she says her older sister and neighbor died in her home a quarter mile down the road.
Well, we didn't find her that first day. They found her the next, when the water went down to where they could get to her. Her grandson and her son-in-law went down there and found her. She was in the dining room laying on the floor.
Debris hanging from tree branches 20 and 30 feet above the water give you some kind of idea how high the floodwater rose. It was a monster.
I've been doing this for 33 years as a fireman, 25 years on one of the FEMA task forces, and this is the worst I've seen for flash flooding.
Battalion Chief Jay Settergren is a FEMA task force leader from Indianapolis. Settergren says residents hardly had any time to act.
And it just came through so violently, and it was very evident to us after the 1-inch rain last night. This has gone up 6 feet today.
Which means, sadly, the risk for more flooding hasn't passed. So going back to what the battalion chief just said, last night, Sunday night, 1 inch of rain, and then he saw Troublesome Creek rise 6 feet today. In fact, the water was going so fast today that him and the other crews from the Indiana Task Force and FEMA, they weren't in the water today, of course, still searching for folks at this hour. That's the latest here in Perry County. I'm Jonathon Gregg reporting for Spectrum News.
Jonathan, thank you. Please stay safe out there. Following the
Spectrum News 1's Jonathon Gregg is in Knott County this evening.
He joins us now live. Jonathan, good evening. What are you seeing out there on the ground in those communities?
Everything that was inside these buildings in downtown Hindman continues to pile up on the sidewalk as no building along Troublesome Creek was spared from this historic level of flash flooding. But my day started in one county over, in Perry, learning about a husband and father and his act of heroism. As frightening as the situation was,
it was 6 foot on the inside of the house.
Brian Miller says he never panicked.
When you panic, I know I'm sounding crazy, but when you panic, it takes your thought process away and it gets you in trouble sometimes.
Nearby Troublesome Creek came up too fast Wednesday night in Erie, Kentucky, trapping his family and neighbors in the valley. Luckily, Miller moved his wife and children into the family camper just high enough up the hill.
Never, ever have we ever seen water like this.
But his neighbors were in trouble. This is a photo Miller's wife Zola took showing her husband on their neighbor's roof, about to lead them to safety. They all stayed in this camper until the floodwater went down.
You can't allow things like this to take your thinking away, to be able to still think, to be able to how to get out of the situation and not be trapped.
On Tuesday, road crews reached Erie and the Millers to clear away tons of mud.
Of course, the ceiling's coming in, the floor's buckling.
And mud is all that Jean Everidge has left.
I don't think the building can be saved structurally.
Her floral shop in Hindman is destroyed. She's been the owner for more than 30 years.
This was such a total loss. So, and unplanned at my age, when you're getting ready in a couple years to retire, you have to start over.
And at a time when so many families need comfort as they grieve, Everidge says she wishes she could do more. She's received several calls to do flower arrangements for victims of the flooding.
It's hard to realize you can't be there for someone who's hurting when you're hurting yourself. While we was trying to clean out the second day here, the funeral home called and said, "Can you do a spray?" And I said, "I don't have anything. There's nothing left."
Showing, even during times of crisis and great loss, these Kentuckians want to put others before themselves. Jean Everidge, and like so many other Kentuckians, are hurting right now. She did say two things before I left. One, she is so thankful for all the people who have come to these communities to help out in any way they can. She wants, though, to say, don't forget about them. Don't forget about them, because this is going to be an incredibly long process for recovery. They need more boots on the ground. They need reinforcements to help remove all this debris and all this mud, just like we saw in her business and just like so many other businesses and homes throughout eastern Kentucky. But that is the latest in Knott County. I'm Jonathon Gregg reporting for Spectrum News.
Jonathon, thank you. Live this evening in Letcher County. Jonathon, I'm sure you've heard so many just heartbreaking stories there. What do you have for us this evening?
Lucky neighbors, so many Kentuckians they've yet to get back to their property to even take out their belongings. I was talking to the relative of the woman living in this trailer. It was pushed off its foundation, then slammed against these trees. That utility pole, I'm told the resident is okay. All of her belongings, though, still inside, likely destroyed. Amid all of this pain, all of this damage, however, still finding those examples of neighbors helping neighbors. The IGA grocery store in Issam.
We're going to have to go and check on the store.
Has long been a central part of Gwendolyn Kristen's life for 50 years.
Since 1973. I started to work here in August in 1973.
Kristen never left, and she and her husband purchased the store in 1998. It has long been the heart of Issam.
I love the community, love the people that was working here with me, and I just said, if you all stay with me, we'll try to make it a go.
Last Wednesday, floodwater from this stream reached 6 feet inside the store, destroying everything.
We looked down here and I said, we're in trouble, though.
On Monday, volunteers that had been working to clear out the store abandoned their efforts due to the overpowering smell of spoiled food.
It's too much. It's too much.
So, for the moment, the future of the town's only full-size grocery store is in limbo. But Kristen is not standing idle. In fact, she's volunteering, managing this water and food pickup station. On Wednesday, they received a water donation from G&J Pepsi in Lexington.
But they asked me if I'd volunteer to take over the distribution of food and water, since that's what I do for a living. That's what I love to do. So I said, sure. I got to take care of my community.
Doing whatever she can to help the community she's been serving for 50 years and counting. My day started in Issam. I'm now in Whitesburg in Letcher County, and we see this example throughout our entire travels, just folks who really haven't been able to begin the recovery process. And you have to imagine, the closer you get to that Kentucky-Virginia border, the more rural it gets, the more difficult it gets for volunteers to even travel to this part of the state. They still need water, they still need food, and they need clothing. All of that's been ruined, just like what's inside this trailer behind me. Still a very dire situation for hundreds, if not thousands, of Kentuckians right now. That's the latest here in Whitesburg. I'm Jonathon Gregg reporting for Spectrum News.
Jonathon.